we're looking at, because I told you my dad just moved to Bastrop, and Jagger, my little brother who works at NADC, is going to be living with them. And so my dad's like,
oh, he's coming this way.
Yeah, well, now I'm like, I talked to our real estate dude. I'm like, see if there's anything in Bastrop, like on like Main Street.
Yeah.
Because like that could be a good little spot for an NADC.
Yeah.
And Jagger lives there, so he can fucking run it.
Yeah.
Numero 28 just opened an Italian place on Main Street.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's one of the cuter main streets I think I've ever seen.
The Main Street is good. The courthouses sucks. So like a lot of the little towns have like beautiful courthouses.
Uh-huh.
The Bastrop one is no good, but the Main Street is the best.
Okay.
Yeah. You haven't been out there, have you?
I don't think so.
I mean, we lived in Cedar Creek for a year and a half and only went there, I think, twice. But you go there and it's like,
looks like
there's
Disneyland.
Yeah, there's so many cool like cities or towns, not cities, towns around the country where like they have a main street and it just looks like it's out of a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so cute and everything is so, it looks like set decorated.
Is it by Cedar Creek? Like close by?
It's like
Cedar Creek is in Bastrop County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like you keep going a little bit and you end up there.
Like just further down, basically.
Yeah, like
Okay.
from the high school, like right by where my house was, 15-minute drive, probably. Yeah, 15, 20-minute maybe. You just get off and there's like a little stream or river. I think it's the Colorado River. It's not a little stream. It's the Colorado River. But it kind of like sits on the edge of it, and there's just like these really cute little, coffee shops and stores. And your store is there, right?
Yeah.
Rad.
Yeah, I haven't. I got to come check out the bookshop.
Yeah.
Are we rolling? So, well, dude, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Been trying to pin you down for a minute. This whole podcast is about mindset.
Yeah.
And specifically not giving up and the mindset that it takes to overcome adversity. We feel like really the difference between success and non-success is how long before you give up.
Yeah.
And if you effectively refuse to lose, then you win if you take that off the table. And so, with, Stoicism and the Daily Stoic and all of those things, we thought it'd be so interesting to have a conversation with you about, what that means to you in your life, but also like what your thoughts on that sort of is in general, when it relates to, someone trying to find success, whether it be in business or sports or a relationship or whatever that may be. Because I'm not, I found out when you invited me to come see you speak.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, I can relate to a lot of this, but I had no idea about Stoicism as a thing. I'd heard of it,
right,
but I'd not read it or studied it. But there were so many points you were making that I was like, oh, I kind of like that.
Oh yeah, that was a talk at Lost Pines, right, where your place is.
Yeah.
And I had like insane food poisoning, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
That was a fun period. I had 5 gigs in 6 nights, one of which was here. And so I was gone for 3 nights and then I had like 2 more or whatever. That was brutal. Yeah. And who was I talking to? It was like people who have retail stores or something. It was an unusual place for me to be talking about ancient philosophy, if I'm remembering right. And then I was just like sort of barely sentient. I was just sort of going through the motions, but maybe that's sort of the point. Like, I think we tend to think of philosophy as this sort of abstract theoretical thing, when really it's also like you got to go do your job and you have food poisoning, or you got to go do your job and your baby didn't sleep at all, or you got to go, you just started this business. Like we built out this bookstore and we started construction the first week of March 2020. You just don't control when stuff happens or how it happens, but you do control whether you quit. That's sort of the idea in Stoicism.
Yeah.
Now, I guess it's always a question of whether you're doing the right thing or not, and perseverance in that case might not be a virtue. But for the most part, most of the things you want in life are on the other side of working really, really hard and not quitting, even when it made sense to quit and you didn't think you had anything left in you.
Yeah, it seems like most overnight successes are usually at year 11, is what I've learned.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. My first book came out in 2012, so I'd written it in 2011, and then it didn't hit. I didn't hit a bestseller list. Like I didn't hit the New York Times bestseller list until 2019. So you have the sense that
Same book or a different book?
different book.
Okay.
But it was 5 years into that book coming out, something like that. Mm-hmm. So like you have this sense that you want it to happen quickly, and you hear about the people for whom it did happen quickly, and you think you're doing something wrong that it didn't happen for you quickly, and then eventually, inevitably, if you don't quit, you sort of get your shot. There's a law, I think it's Hofstadter's law, and it says it always takes longer than you expect, even when you take this law into account. And so you go like, okay, it's 10,000 hours. So at some point after doing this for 10,000 hours, like I'll get there. And then you get to 10,000 hours or, whatever the benchmark or the process you said. And then you're like, well, now it's it. And then it's like 20, 30, 40% longer than that.
Well, I think the thing there is like people misunderstand 10,000 hours is the idea to master the craft.
Yeah.
But you can't become... your success is only as deeply rooted as you are masterful in your craft. And so it takes that long to become a master of your craft, but then you are good enough now to start building on something to, but the way that it seems kind of like how you did it, you were doing them simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, and look, on the 10,000 hours thing, it's like, you can be successful before you're a master.
Yeah.
And you can also be a master and it take a long time to be successful. Those are unrelated variables.
Yeah.
And so you often look at someone who like the algorithm has blessed or, fortune or privilege or, their parents have blessed. And you go like, well, that should be me. And you just realizing that it's going to take however long it's going to take for you. And a lot of that is outside your control. But whether you sort of show up and do the thing day in and day out and develop becoming a master at something is like basically Stoic philosophy. The main principle of Stoic philosophy is there's some things that are in your control and some things that are not in your control. And so if we're looking at this in terms of like succeeding in what you're trying to do in life, it's like becoming a master at something is more or less in your control. Like it's a certain number, it's a math equation. Like how many hours, how much work, if you stick at it, eventually you'll get good at it. Whether you succeed at that thing is much less up to you, right? Like
it's like chance, right?
Yeah, it's chance and it's circumstance and it's all these other things that again, if you get really, really, really good at something, chances are you will be successful at it.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But like, decide like I someone gave me this advice once that like there's a big difference between writing and publishing. Like writing I can get good at, and that's in my control. Publishing, there's a lot of things I can do to influence it, but ultimately much less in my control. So the distinction then is like, are you spending your energy on writing or are you spending your energy on publishing? Publishing is the industry, it's marketing, it's all these other things, which are not unimportant. But if all your focus is over here and you're neglecting the thing where, by the way, your effort and your energy makes the biggest difference, then you're doing something wrong.
In our world, like in the restaurant world, it's the writing would be your product that you're selling, and then your publishing would be how you are putting yourself out to the world.
Sure.
And there are restaurants out there with horrible food but great marketing, and there's restaurants that have unbelievable food and they don't market at all.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, find the sweet spot.
Yes.
But I've always thought that if you make art to get rich, it's incredibly difficult. If you make art, and art being your product, if you make art because there's nothing else that's what your body needs to do, that the money will find you or the success will find you.
Well, that's really important. It's like money is great and you should get as much of it as you can. And you should certainly, nothing is served by you not getting paid your worth or all of that. So that's not what I'm saying. But if you got into the restaurant business to get rich, or you decided to write books, or in my case, you decided to write books about ancient philosophy for the money, like you already fucked up.
Yeah.
There are just much, much better things, like the margins in the restaurant industry are like notoriously terrible. So like it's always interesting. You'll see people that get into a space where like you are already have this massive headwind, and then you're like all about that thing. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like if your main thing is just making as much money as possible because you have expensive taste and I don't know, that's your goal. Great. Like go work on Wall Street. I remember I was talking to the founder of American Apparel one time, who I worked for many years. And someone was saying something about, they were like, if we move the factory from America, even though it's in the fucking name, they're like, if we move the factories, Guatemala, like the margins will be much better. And he said, if all I cared about was making money, I'd have become a drug dealer. and I think about that all the time as a flawed, tragic figure, which he was. That is true. Like you already chose not to optimize for money.
Yeah.
When you got into an industry where like the gross margins are like 4% or something, right? Or it's like, I'm selling long books about philosophy in 2025. I've already made a very definitive statement about like what is important to me. So then why am I judging success or failure based on the bottom line? That's just, you've already said that that's like, if making money is your main thing, you should be in the money making industry, not in the food making industry or the book publishing industry or whatever it is.
Yeah. So I think it's about defining success for yourself and what that means. I've always thought, and I've always just had this idea, because for so many years I couldn't. I just wanted to be able to go to a restaurant and order what I felt like eating.
Yeah, sure.
And that's it. Obviously, need to be able to pay my bills and all those things. And the thing about, especially in the food industry, but I think in any industry, it doesn't matter how good your art is if you die a starving artist. You have to figure out how to actually monetize if it's what you want to spend all of your time doing, unless you are someone who wants to live on people's couches and that kind of thing. But you got to figure out how do you, and again, what is success to you? If success is having 4 Bentleys, it might be more difficult than for others.
Yeah, I mean, the craft of actually monetizing your profession and being good at that's a separate thing. I'm just saying that, like, first and foremost, you've already decided what your priorities are by getting into this thing. So make sure that that's the main thing that you're focused on.
Yeah.
And that's where your energy and passion is, and that's how you're judging success. And then, as you're no one should be overpay. You shouldn't be overpaying for leases. You shouldn't be getting screwed by vendors. If someone wants you to do an appearance, like negotiate for the maximum fee. This is all secondary.
Maybe I should hire you every time just to see what I should do next, because I did all those things wrong.
Yeah, I mean, most people do. I'm just saying it's like you should get paid the most you can get paid, but it's just like just reminder that like success was never that. This is that's a byproduct of having gotten really good at doing the thing. Yeah. And then, by the way, the reward for succeeding at the thing, like I think about this all the time, is that one of the weird parts about writing is that when you succeed at it, people want you to go do a bunch of things that are not writing. So like you do a lot of talks, or they want you to do consulting, or people start companies. And I just try to be very cognizant of, like, to me, the barometer of the success is, do I have time to write? Because that's why I got into this in the first place. And I imagine there's probably an equivalent in your industry where you're like, I haven't been in the kitchen in months because you've been doing all the other things pertaining to the business. And you're like, but that's the part of it that lights me up. And I just hate the idea that the reward for succeeding is that you don't get to do the thing that you wanted to dedicate your life to doing.
It pulls you away from it.
Totally.
Yeah, that's been my life for the past, that's been my life for a while now. I think I shared with you, I had some after I sold the restaurant, I told you that whole story. Yeah. That's the reason I have so many restaurants now, is I had to fund a defensive lawsuit or I would lose everything.
Interesting.
And the only way to fund that was to generate more revenue. And the only way to generate more revenue with a 10-seat restaurant is open another 10-seat restaurant. And then one day I looked up after the lawsuits got dropped and all that stuff, and I just looked around and I went, I didn't get into this to be a business mogul.
Right.
You know, I got into this to roll my sleeves up and cook food for people.
Right.
And but again, I got into it, and I think the reason I didn't really, you know, my barometer for success was put food on the table, basically, was because I, you know, my high school dropout, played in punk bands. You know, as long as we got our top ramen and we, you know, made it to the next city, I could sleep on the back seat of the van.
Yeah.
You know, and say, you know, through skateboarding and everything, I think, you know, as, you know, him entering into the restaurant world, you know, it's a very different lifestyle of like, we don't need Ferraris and stuff.
Yeah.
They'd be cool to have one day.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to, you know, what your vision of success is at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
And like Phillip was saying, just to be able to go to a restaurant and not worry about what you're ordering and stuff is like, a lot of people, that's a good point of success. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
no, if you can feel rich there, then everything else is extra.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all kind of make believe anyways, right? Because there are people who, you know, I have times where I don't feel happy. And on paper, I'm very successful.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who on paper are not successful at all, and they feel very happy.
Yeah.
You know, there's that story. I think maybe you told this story. I don't know. The story of the fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you who told that story?
I mean, it's a famous story. People don't. It's famous because it was like a chain email in the 90s.
Will you tell? I don't think he knows the story. Will you tell the story?
It's like a story. There's a bunch of different versions, but it's like a guy's on vacation and he, you know, he comes across a fisherman who has a single boat and he's telling him about his business. And he says, you know, if you got another boat, you know, and then another boat and another boat and another, he's basically, this American businessman is showing the fisherman how to create a business empire out of what he's doing. And then the fisherman says, you know, well, okay, well, at the end, what happens? And he said, well, then you can retire and live on a beach somewhere. The guy's like, this is where I live now, where you're on vacation. And actually, the funny thing is that story, sometimes people chance upon certain truths or ideas, and that it doesn't matter what context you put it in, it still rings true. So that was like a viral email in the 90s. But actually, it's a story that dates to like the 13th or 14th century. And it's about a king and his advisor. And the advisor is telling him, or the king is telling the advisor, whatever. They're going over the plan about how he's to conquer this country and then conquer this country and conquer this country and conquer until he's conquered all of Europe. And then the man says, well, what then? And he says, well, then we can live at peace. And it's like, you live in peace now. You're start. So
you're going to start a war so you can get peace.
Yeah. The idea is like, and this is my point about as a writer, it's like, I love writing. I love spending time sitting down writing where I get to get lost in it. That's where it was at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then you succeed at the thing and you go, well, I just have to get to this level and then I can go back to where I started. And you actually have that power right now. And it's our inability to say no. It's our inability to be disciplined. It's our inability to have boundaries that prevents us from having the thing that's actually quite cheap. And we just tell ourselves, you know, some enormous level of success will then give us the freedom to have the thing that we were free to have all along.
And the happiness, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you're already happy.
Yeah, you already have everything you need, but you're telling yourself that once you get X, Y, and Z, then you'll have, you know. And the reality is you won't, because you have to zoom out and go, well, what are the people who have done the thing that I've said I need to do? What does their life actually look like? What actually happened when they got there? Did they feel like they arrived? Did they retire? You know, no. What happened is it tore apart their marriage, and then they had to start over, and you know, it
went on to the next thing.
Yeah, you're like, you're starting the company to sell the company to then start another company. Just have the company. Why not just set up the company that you're in right now to be sustainable and enjoyable?
Yeah.
And not need to get on this kind of hamster wheel that I think we find
love
ourselves
that.
on.
Unless the hamster wheel is like that's the game that you want to play.
Sure,
because I feel
some
like
people are serial entrepreneurs, and they love the rush of starting and finishing and completing a thing. Sure,
and their 10,000 hours isn't of searing meat. Their 10,000 hours is of successfully exiting companies or whatever.
Expanding,
like
building.
their art, the art
Sure.
of business,
Yeah.
right? Which is an art in of itself.
yeah.
How did you first find writing? How did you get into it?
I mean, I loved books as a kid. I don't think I understood or even contemplated the idea that like I could make those. It's funny. I just interviewed this woman. Her name is Susan Straight, and she was a novelist. She was one of my professors in college, and she was like the first writer that I met. Like, not every professor has written a book, but then there's the ones that have done like actually commercially successful books. And I remember taking her class or meeting her at this lecture and going like, oh, this is like.
A real writer.
This is a real writer, but also like this is a real thing that people do. This isn't like, this isn't this unattainable, unrealistic thing. It's a thing that a person can do. I'm sure it's like, you meet someone and you're like, oh, you're not like a genius. You just had this idea for this pizza restaurant and now it's a pizza restaurant.
Yeah.
You just realize that at some level it's a trade also. And so anyways, there was this process of kind of realizing that it was a thing that real people did. And then not just, things I saw in bookstores. And then I worked as a research assistant for this amazing writer named Robert Greene, who wrote the 48 Laws of Power. So I trained, that was another kind of glimpse behind the curtain, probably not unlike, starting in, as a dishwasher at a restaurant or something.
Apprenticing kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you're like, oh, okay, like it's very hard and very stressful and very difficult, but it's also not rocket science.
Yeah.
Like it is a formula.
You
or
can
a
just apply
practice.
yourself.
Yes, and so I that was sort of my process, and so I worked for him for 7 years, something like that. So I was basically an apprentice for many years under the person who not just was a very successful writer and is a very successful writer, but does the kinds of books that I wanted to do.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that because you said the 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
And that seems philosophical.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And it's basically these sort of philosophical principles illustrated by stories, which is like what my books are.
And that's no different than going and working in an amazing sushi restaurant and then one day opening a sushi restaurant, or going and studying under the best pasta guy so that you can make pasta one day.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, this is how. And I was just writing about this recently. There was this moment I remember I was sitting in this little shitty pizza restaurant in LA, and I was reading one of Robert's books, and I read this story. He told this story about the Battle of Marathon. And so after I finished, I called him or I emailed him and I said, hey, I just read this story. Like, what did you read to write this story? Like and he's like, well, I read these like 3 books. And so I went and I got those 3 books and I read those. And then in that was the first time that I saw not just the finished product, but what goes into the finished product. So it'd be like being a chef and you're like, oh, this I saw the ingredients come in.
You deconstructed the entire dish.
Yeah, you saw the ingredients come into the kitchen and then you saw it leave the kitchen as food that someone loved. And you're like, oh, again, I don't quite understand how you had all the ideas to do it, but I did see you do it. And I see that there's not a magic trick. Like there wasn't anything mind blowing in as far as the process goes. The creativity of it and the workmanship of it and the craft of it, that's all, unattainable. But the equation is at least understandable, conceivable to me now. And when you have those moments, it's like if you wanted to be a filmmaker and you're watching a movie and then all of a sudden you go, oh, I see. They went from this shot to this shot to this shot. And that's how they took you on the journey from this, the character doing this to being over here. And you just kind of get this moment where the process of it is revealed to you. Those are extremely powerful moments because it's no longer it's no longer magic. It's
Yeah.
just a thing that you've got to figure out how to do.
It's formulaic. It's still there's still artistry in it, but and that's I think with almost anything, whether it be skateboarding or cooking or writing, or once you figure what's the Musashi quote? Once you know how to do it, you know how to do it everywhere.
Once you see it anywhere, you can see it in everywhere, or something like that.
Yeah.
Once you know the way in one thing, you can see it in all things.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Or you figured out the formula and then just had to put yourself to it, right?
Yeah.
And start creating in your mind and in your thought process.
Yeah, and like, so for Robert, watching him go, okay, so he wanted to tell this story. So he went and got the source material, and then he told this story. Then you realize, okay, actually the hard thing there is deciding what story to tell.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so once you have the raw skill, you can do the thing, then the magic, inspiration, artistic part of it, that can happen. That doesn't lessen.
Yeah.
Like the process of rolling out a dish or having a concept for a restaurant, or, successfully launching a restaurant and then having the idea for the restaurant, those are separate things.
Yes.
But once you can combine those two things, you have everything you need to do.
Well, now we can do a pasta restaurant, a burger restaurant, a sushi restaurant, any type of restaurant, because we know how to do restaurants.
Yes.
But then you have to become proficient at the thing you want to do, and then you just combine the two.
So it was unusual for me, though, because most people don't ever actually learn how to do a book, right? Like,
Yeah.
so most people have, the way it would typically work is like you would have an idea for a book, and then you'd be like, I'm going to go do a book. And then you would not know how to do it. And you would probably fail in the execution phase, or you would fail in the getting access to the industry phase, or you would fail in any number of ways, but you didn't act, no one actually showed you how to do the thing. And there's not like a class you can take to do it. And so I just got lucky in that I learned first the sort of methodical approach to making a nonfiction book, which could have been applied to any book or any type of book. And then, so when I had my first idea for a book, which is not about Stoicism at all, I at least understood and I was technically capable of doing the thing. So I did it and it came out. So the point is, like, oftentimes people think it's sort of the inspiration or the passion or the quality of the idea that's like the make or break of it. And you just don't realize that there are millions of people that have good ideas for books or for restaurants.
Everything is execution.
Yeah. And so, but it's hard to it's hard and not sexy and takes a long time to get the technical skill or the executional ability. And so people are just I need a better idea. And actually, no, what you need to learn is like how a restaurant works. Like, you'd be better off like just working at a restaurant, sitting on your idea and going to work at a restaurant and seeing all the things that, you should do and shouldn't do.
The first chef I ever worked for told me, don't ever stay anywhere for more than a year. If you haven't learned it in a year, you're not going to learn it.
Yeah.
And every time you switch restaurants, go from the edge of the map to the edge of the map. And every restaurant you go to, well, the reason she told me this is she said to me, what do you want to do in this industry? And I said, I want to be the best chef in the world. So this is tailored to, I want to be the best chef in the world. And I want to own my own restaurants. Those were the two things that were important to me. She said, everywhere you go, you're going to take all the things that appeal to you and put them in one pocket, and all the things that you don't like, and you put it in another pocket. And in 10 years from now, or however many years from now, when you go to start your first restaurant, you're going to empty your pockets. And you are not going to do any of the things from your left pocket.
Yeah.
And you're going to take all the things from your right pocket, and you're not going to replicate that. You want to be the best. You can't just do what they did, but you're going to use that as the foundation to then take all of the things, everything you like will be the building blocks for you to start finding your own voice with.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, those are the tools to now create your own sculpture.
Totally. Yeah, that's the idea. And obviously that's not the fun, exciting part, right? Because it feels like you're not doing your dream.
But it could be if I was lucky enough, I think, like, there's so many things that happen in your life. You look back and you're like, I wonder if I'd be the same if I didn't have that conversation or that thing didn't happen. But I got to spend the next 10, 15 years, I guess 10 years before I opened my first restaurant, I got to spend the next 10 years on this journey to generate experience points, so that I could then be ready to do the thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah, I just mean, it just, like, you have the idea for a restaurant or whatever, and you think that's where you have to start.
Yeah.
It feels shitty and frustrating to have to take 20 steps backwards first. But that's a big part of it.
The reason that the restaurant industry is notoriously the number one restaurant for failures is because of what you just basically said. It's one of the only industries that has it's the lowest barrier for entry. You don't need a permit. I mean, if you want to do someone's nails, you need a permit. You don't
need a bunch of permits to serve.
Well,
food?
okay, you need permits.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be you don't have to go. You don't have to be credentialed.
Yeah,
so if you've got a couple $1,000 in your grandma's baked bean recipe, you can open a restaurant without any experience. You can't just go open a bank.
Right.
You can't open a gas station. There is no going and opening of writing a book.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to for that. There's the failure rate is so high because people have an idea and they go, oh, I'll open a restaurant like this, and then restaurants are hard.
Well, everything is hard. There's this great line, I think it's from Otto von Bismarck, the German chancellor. He said, any fool can learn by experience. Mm-hmm. I prefer to learn by the experiences of others. Like there's just a bunch of painful lessons that you learn on the way to doing whatever it is that you want to do. And so if you're this like, I got to do it my own way, I can't work well with others, I'm too impatient. Basically what you're saying is that you want to learn all the expensive lessons like with your own money, and so like I not only was a research assistant for Robert, then I had this company where I did marketing for authors. So like by the time my first book came out, I'd worked on dozens and dozens of books, some that had worked really well, some that hadn't. And I knew people in the industry. I had put in, I had done all this. Not only had I not had to pay to learn all these lessons, in many cases, I was getting paid to learn the lessons. So it's like, do you want to learn, like the dynamics of running a kitchen or of marketing or how not to get ripped off by the salespeople that come in every day and see you as a mark? Like, do you want to learn that with your restaurant where the margin for error is extremely low, or do you want to learn it as an assistant manager first and a manager, and then you're taking all that shit back to your thing when you eventually do it?
There's no getting away from. You'll never be able to get like all of the experience,
of course,
right?
Yes.
But I think that like in that specific example, that is the reason that a lot of restaurants don't work because you have you're doing something, you're 40 years old, you're like, you know what? I've always wanted to have a restaurant. You're not going to now go spend 15 years working in other people's restaurants.
Right.
I do have I have a question though, maybe a stoic question about the quote you just gave, which is any fool can learn by their own mistakes. I immediately, as you said that, said I'm a fool because I'm incapable, at least thus far in my life, to learn from other people's mistakes. Now let's be being specific. I'm being very generalized. If I see someone get hit by a car, I'm not going to go cross that street. But I am one of the types of people who needs to go out and do it.
Sure. But you didn't learn from the experiences of working in restaurants for 10 years? Of course you did.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want the first time you're encountering this or that to be with your most precious thing? It's like, I just imagine it's like a very capital intensive business, right? What you guys do. So it's like, if you're literally for the first time experience, like I know this with my bookstore. Like I'd built other businesses. I'd been in business. I'd done a bunch of, I also knew the publishing business inside and out. So I know what's bullshit and what's not. I know what's necessary and what's not. I know like what works and what doesn't. Now, this doesn't mean that like my thing was, destined to be a success. It just meant that I wasn't gonna blow through my like margin for error or my slack or whatever you want to call it. I just didn't do that like in the first 3 weeks. You know, like
Yeah.
you can make decisions not even knowing it from like, you just make decisions, right? The name of the restaurant, the location, and it's like, if this is the first time you've done it, you have not had the breadth of experience. You better hope you're really lucky, right? And so by doing it for other people or being observant, what that allows you to do is go, okay, I think this restaurant failed because the name is fucking confusing, or like the hours are weird. You know, you're just watching other people. Now you're still going to learn a ton of lessons
Yeah.
by
on your own,
experience
regardless.
yourself. You're just going like, hey, I'm starting at lesson 15
Yeah.
instead of 1. And by the way, going from 1 to 15 is what kills most people because you're just getting your ass kicked over and over and over again. And by 15, you're like, I'm out of money. I'm out of patience. You know, I've burned through all my potential. It's too late. You needed to start on 15. And not only could you have learned that by experience, by the way, a bunch of people have written books about this that you could go, I don't know, just fucking read for $15, but you're like, no, I got it. I'm just naturally good at this. And that's the arrogance that you want to override.
Yeah, knowing how to pull back a little bit and like go in and like be a student.
Yes,
right?
totally.
And learn a couple of things before you get into it can definitely help you with success in the long term.
Yeah, of course.
The problem is there's no real, like, yes, you can learn about the restaurant industry. You can learn about any industry. Ownership is an area that I am yet to find a way to learn prior to being an owner.
Of course.
Because the weight of the decision making is the hardest part of being an owner. The weight of knowing that once the buck stops with you, it's very, very different. Which again, like I say, like in the kitchen, the prerequisite, and I'm sure it's the same with what you do. The prerequisite is you have to be really fucking good at cooking or writing or whatever it is, because once you turn it into a business that you're the owner of, you're not really able to, and this is back to where we started with this, you're not able to do all the cooking or all the writing because now you have to run the business side of it.
You got to be a businessman.
Which is what happens is you start because you're in love with the craft. The craft becomes successful or it turns into a business, but now you have to run the business, which then takes time away from you being able to do the craft. And it's sort of this cyclical, this spiral, which is why I tell a lot of young cooks, that scene in Billy Madison when he grabs the kid's face and says, "Stay here, stay as long as you can."
Yeah.
When I see young cooks and they're like, "Yeah, I want to open my own restaurant one day," I want to grab their cheeks and do that and be like, "No, here's what maybe you do, but you have to be prepared to not take a paycheck for 3 years.
Right.
You have to be prepared. Like I've had several, chefs sit down with me and be like, "Hey, tell me about how you do it. I want to open my own restaurant. I want to make sure I make like $150K a year. I go, whoa, just stop.
Right.
Just stop. You need to what it's going to take to own a business is very different from what it takes to run a business.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone, like, unless you want the heartache of that and the hardships of that, which is incredibly rewarding. The harder the difficulty you set it on, the more rewarding it is when you beat it.
Yeah.
But you might just want to find some doctor with a lot of money who's going to give you a great salary, and you can still play restaurant.
Yeah.
And you can still have all of your art, and you can focus on your art.
Yeah, you got to know what kind of life you want to have. But I think there's some things you can learn about leadership only by being a leader or being in charge or being an owner, whatever you want to call it. At the same time, there's a bunch of basic principles that it would be good for you not to be learning. Like it's like do you want to be learning how this works when you're using live rounds for the first time?
Yeah, you don't want to.
It's like you want to do it in a safe environment first and for a while. And so how you can cultivate that is, I think, really important. That's like the apprenticeship education phase where you're sort of putting all the pieces together. And then there's this very scary, very risky moment where you decide, hey, I'm going to do my own thing now.
Yeah.
And it's going to be painful and you're going to fuck up and it might not work. But you want to put yourself in a position to succeed by having done the other stuff first.
So taking that back to your story, so you did it the right way, or at least the way that we are agreeing is the correct way to do it. How do you parlay that into actually writing and publishing your first book? And does your first book get published?
Yeah, it did. So my first book was a marketing book. It was about sort of an expose of the media industry that had come from my sort of day job life. And it came out, it did pretty good. It got a lot of attention. I got a big advance for it. It didn't like blow the doors off from a sales perspective, but I knew it was the right sort of first shot for me. And then, when I went to my publisher, the way it works in publishing is your publisher has the option on your next book. So I went to them and I was like, now I want to write about an obscure school of ancient philosophy. And they were
Is an option like a first right of refusal?
Basically,
Okay.
yeah. So you have to give them your pitch for the next project, and they can pass on it, which they often do. And they, to their credit, my publisher didn't pass, but they were like, okay, we'll give you basically half or less than half what we gave you for the first one. So it was like a big step back.
Yeah.
But I knew why it would work, right? I had an idea of why it would work, and I was excited about it, and it was what I wanted to do. But I was sort of very deliberate about knowing that I was doing this book first, and that was to set up what I really wanted to write and talk about.
How did you find Stoicism? And why did that become the thing that you wanted to dedicate your existence to?
Yeah, I was introduced to it when I was in college, and it was just mind-blowing. I just loved it. And it was what I wanted to write about, but I had no way of, one, fully comprehending what it was all about, but two, I didn't see a way into doing it. So that was the longest period. So let's see, I would have found out about it in 2006, and then my first book of Stoicism came out in 2014. The Daily Stoic came out in 2016, so that's 10 years. So it took a long time, not just for me to figure it out, not just time for the books to come out, but then time even for it to work commercially. So you got to, even being right, like I was directionally right. Like I knew this, I had this sense that it could be good. I had this sense that I could do it. And I took that leap. And even then, it's like they say the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. And so just because you're right, just because it's a good idea doesn't mean it's going to work.
Yeah.
That's where I think the patience and the sort of hanging on and not quitting part comes.
The algorithm. Just wait for the algorithm
to come around.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes,
there's a thing, you can be ahead of your time.
Yeah.
That's a real
it's
thing.
Usually that's a great recipe for failure. Even my first book, the media book, I wrote this book. It's sort of about fake news, and I wrote it in 2011, and I was like, this got to come out right now, and I was like a decade early, and so that just happens, and I'm going to do a 15-year anniversary edition of that book next year. So like, being right is only a small percentage of it. Yeah, you got to also be right in your timing.
Timing, all of that.
Do you think that finding, like, when Dr. Drew gave you the book, is that something, like, did it just resonate with you in a way that, like, you needed that?
Yeah. It was like what it did for me personally, spiritually, creatively.
Yeah.
Very separate from its own impact on me sort of professionally. Do you know what I mean? Like, like you can eat something and be like, this is the greatest food I've ever had in my life. This is what I want to do. And then having some way to, not it being unclear what you're going to do with it for many years in the future. And by the way, a lot of those moments, they only become clear afterwards. So like you want to be really careful when you listen to people's stories because, you know the word retconning?
Retcon, no.
Retcon is when you go back afterwards and you make
up a reason?
You make continuity, right?
Okay.
So it's like, I'll give you an example. I had this idea for a marketing book. I just told you the story. I had an idea for a marketing book. It came out. It did okay. I had an idea for a Stoicism book. It came out. It did okay. And then 3-4 years later, it did more than okay. It really blew up. So it seems more, in retrospect, it was a great play. But at the time, like I accepted their valuation of the work. Like I thought it was worth less than half, you know, and I thought it would work, and it kind of did, but only later was it clear how right I was, you know. But I didn't know that, and it's very important that you don't give yourself too much retroactive credit. And then when you listen to people's stories, they're like, I had an epiphany and I knew and it worked. And it's like, it was so much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And it took so much, they've rounded off the edges of it. And so you just want to make sure that you realize a lot of these things are messy and not linear. And I did a bunch of other things that didn't work in that time. And those all disappear. And then what becomes clear is the A to B to C to D.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that at the time.
Those are the stepping stones that of your journey, but they weren't this leads to this so that it can lead to there.
And by the way, you never knew.
Yes.
And if you did know, you were full of shit, right? If you did know, it was ego.
Yeah.
But because you can't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's like 10 years from now, your restaurants, you're going to be surveying people, surveying your restaurant empire. They're going to forget all the ones you opened and closed.
Yeah.
And so that's called the survivorship bias. So they're only going to be looking at the ones that work, and you're going to look like you're a genius because of all the ones that worked. Even right now, right? You have however many ones you have open, but conveniently forgotten are the ones that are not open, and that, by the way, you were equally excited about or convinced of.
Yeah.
And so there is that's. I'm just bringing this up because I think people sometimes feel insecure that they don't feel more secure. Like that they make up that all these other people knew and these other people were on this path and it was certain. And it's like, no, it was touch and go every fucking minute, and it was terrifying and it wasn't clear, and only in retrospect did it become clear. And don't add that level of self-doubt and criticism on top of it that it's not how it was for these other people, because it wasn't like that for them.
I think it's very difficult to like compare yourself to anyone, because no one, I don't want to say no, I wanted to say no one's going to be completely honest with you. But that suggests that people aren't honest. I think no one's capable of being completely honest.
Yeah.
And not that they don't want to share with you, but like they may not recall the times that, you know, the things happened or whatever. And so, you know, but the thing is that very rarely does anyone who's not a one-hit wonder just happen overnight.
Yeah.
It often takes, there's often a lot behind that.
It's a grind.
If people knew for sure it was going to be a success, they'd never take on investors.
Yeah.
Right. Like
That's why I don't have investors.
But you know what I mean? Like they'd never work with anyone. Like you wouldn't share it. Like I thought this book on Stoicism could work. But if I was convinced, maybe I should have self-published it.
Yeah.
Right. Like you didn't know. You're taking a chance every time. And that's good. What the lesson you should take from it, what I try to remind myself of, is that like the lesson is not, oh, I'm a genius, I knew. The lesson is take chances, try things, and then when they don't work, walk away and try the next thing. Right? Not to say you should you never stick with it when it gets hard, but the point is like take a lot of shots on goal. That's the lesson. Yeah. Not the one shot you took that went in is because you're the greatest athlete ever or whatever.
That's going to increase your chances of like making something that's successful as well. It's like the more shit you throw at a wall, something's going to stick, right?
Yeah.
So you just keep going, right? And obviously quality shit, right?
Yes.
Like
yes.
You don't want to put out garbage. You want to put out good stuff, you know, stuff that you care about, stuff that you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think you do anything long enough, you're humbled by the fact that the things that you were convinced were going to work didn't. And then often the things that you were like, maybe, or you honestly, like someone on your team was much more excited about it than you, or, you know, you were sort of taking a flyer on it. It explodes at this level that you couldn't have anticipated. And again, so what lesson are you taking from that? It's just very easy to be like, to just lie to yourself and be like, I knew, I sensed it. It was all on purpose. And to actually be like, it was more of a, you know, like, Have you heard this thing like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no?
I
It's just like a
haven't, but I
general
think,
rule.
but that is a great rule.
It's
a
a great rule, except if you think about most of the things that really changed your life, like this conference you went to and you met someone, you weren't like, I'm going to fucking go. It's going to be the fucking great. You're like, oh, I don't want to go to this thing, but I have to. And then, like a lot of the big decisions, the best decisions I made in my life were like 50-150. It wasn't even close to hell yes. I had no idea.
I have found actually, I immediately said that's a great rule of thumb. And then as you started going on, I'm like, oh, actually, I think I have found like the things that I didn't want to do that I did anyways.
Yeah.
The things that were difficult that I would never wish on my worst enemy, but I got through are the things that led to the outcome of the life that I have today. And I think, one of my favorite examples of that is how I met Clayton.
Yeah.
How I ended up in Austin. When Marguerite and I opened our first restaurant, that's all we cared about. And I want to say it was maybe a year into the restaurant. We had not taken a day off yet. And I believe it was our anniversary, my birthday, her birthday, something. And we were going to take 2 days away. And we took the first day away. The second day, we had like a really important thing planned. Can't remember what it was. Get a call from the manager of the restaurant saying, hey, there's a couple and they want to come and do the chef's counter tonight. Now, back then, I had like 40 seats in the restaurant and 11 seats in the middle of the restaurant. And it was a 15-course menu that only I cooked.
Yeah.
So if you were sitting in any of the seats, the kitchen cooked for you. If you were sitting at the counter, I cooked for you. And I closed the counter for those 2 days because I was going to go do this thing.
Right.
And the manager says, there's this couple, and they dined here last night. They're from Austin. They are only in town for 2 days. Last night they ate here. They said it was the best meal they've ever had. They really want to come back tonight and do your chef's counter. And I said, let me call you right back. Because I was like, can we do another night? They're like, they can't. So I talked to Margarita, and we essentially decide we did not open a restaurant to not be there for people who cared about what we're doing.
Sure.
So went in, did it. That guy and that girl are now the godparents of our daughter.
Yeah.
And they're the reason we live in Austin now. And that was not a hell yes.
Right.
That was a hell no. But then we had to take a moment and go, we didn't get into this to not cook.
Right.
Yeah.
No, when I sent in the draft, so the Daily Stoic was not my idea. It was my agent's idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Obviously, the idea of writing about Stoicism was my idea. I'd done 2 other books on Stoicism, but he was like, hey, I think you should do this page-a-day book about Stoicism. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really read those books. I don't know about it. And he was like, check out these things. I think you'll really like it. So first and foremost, wasn't my idea. And then second, when I did it, and I remember I sent the draft into my editor, and I could find the email, I'm sure, but I said something like, hey, like, is this anything? Like, I don't know. Like, it was a weird book to write because you're writing these disjointed entries that, like, the book is pretty good the first time, and then the second time, the third time, the fourth. It's this thing you're supposed to, it's just a different type of writing that than you normally do. And so I'd never done anything like this. But I remember, I do very vividly remember sending in and being like, dude, tell me if it sucks, because like,
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. And I don't want you to mistake me sending it for a vote of confidence. Like I just like, I need you to be, I need you to know that it's okay for you to tell me like, this has got to go back to the drawing board because it's not working. It wasn't that I wouldn't do it, but I just didn't know if I had anything. And flash forward, that book has sold millions of copies. It's in, dozens and dozens of languages. It's been used by sports teams and special forces. It's been this thing, right? And it's launched sort of this resurgence of the philosophy all over the world. It obviously worked, but I try to remind myself that I didn't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like not only did I not know, I thought I knew that it was not good.
Yeah.
Right. and the point is like, I think that's a good sign. One, like if you're like, this is the greatest thing there ever was, most actual sort of people who are great at what they do are focused on all the things that are wrong with it, right? That's how you get really good at it. I think we think, they're these sort of big swinging dicks, like alpha whatever. That's not actually my experience meeting sort of like real champions and sort of heavyweights at what they do. They're like, are you sure? There's a humility to it that which is what drives actually being great at it. But I do remember, just like, I try to remind myself that I went into it with all sorts of trepidation, and that's usually what marks when you're on something big. And just not letting the subsequent success or reception, which again, by the way, you don't control and is outside of you. And sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. There's a lot of shit that works too, right? Like a lot of terrible things that people love for a moment in time. So you can't let the subsequent reaction overwrite what that actual feeling was at the time. And this is really helpful, because if you go on to do other things, the writer's block is not, I have no idea what to say. Writer's block or creative blocks are usually like, oh, this is garbage. And if you're now comparing everything that you do to how it felt after it succeeded, you're overriding the actual feeling that you felt when you were at this stage in all your things. Like, I can't imagine opening night for your restaurants. You're like, this is the greatest restaurant in the world. This is going to be the biggest since, like, I imagine you're running around like a crazy person, like nervous and anxious and fiddling with shit. You got to remember that feeling. I think next time you're not like, why doesn't it feel that way?
I think there's a healthy way of thinking that what you just did is going to be successful, and an unhealthy version of that. Sure. And I mean, often for me, like, I call myself a delusional optimist, because I am very delusional, but I'm never negatively delusional, which I think is very helpful for me. So I do believe in what, like, anything I'm going to do, without believing in it, I'm not going to give it 1,000%. Of course. Now, not everything I've ever done worked as well as I thought it would. And when I, during opening night, I may say, wow, this is real. Like, I may be super hyped on it and go, this looks like it's going to fucking work. But I'm doing it more in a, I want to say, more healthy way, as opposed, it's not a like rooting for myself or it's not an egotistical way. It's objectively, that was successful tonight. And I could see a world where this restaurant becomes the hardest reservation in town. Yeah. I do tell myself that every single time we open a restaurant. That's part of my delusional optimism. I don't want to say I'm yet to have I've had many of the hardest reservations in town for some amount of time, but we're getting close to 30 restaurants and I don't have 30 of them. Yet every single time we open one, I go, this is going to be the hardest reservation in town.
Yeah, if you don't believe in it, that's a bad sign.
Then why are you doing it, right?
but I just mean, you want to have this sort of healthy humility about it. Yeah. Because that's what makes, I imagine when Steve Jobs would go up and he'd be like unveiling something, right? He goes on stage and like, this is the greatest thing in the world. And he's giving this pitch. This is revolutionary, right? But backstage, he was like, "What the fuck?
Oh,
what
yeah.
the fuck?" That's what I mean. It's like if you're confident, you're probably complacent, And so there's a difference between going, "Hey, I think this is good. I think this has a shot, and I'm gonna give it everything I have to." No, this is a sure thing. If you're thinking anything you're doing is a sure thing, you've passed over into the world of
you got to have those butterflies in your
totally
your stomach,
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you need like somewhat anxiety, confidence, but anxiety as well. You know,
because that means you're stretching.
Yeah.
Well, I think the balance is both of what you just said. I think that you need to be able to believe that this has a shot, and be proud of what you've done, and be critical and objective about. No restaurant, even though I say every time we open a restaurant, I'm like, this is going to be the hardest reservation in town. In fact, what I tell my teams every single time is, guys, this is ours to lose.
Yeah.
If we don't fuck this up, we can be the hardest reservation in town. And then it goes to, how do we not fuck this up?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the fucking up of it could be we do a bad job. It could be that a pandemic hits. It could be any number of things that don't result in being. But again, also, if you don't strive for another galaxy, you're never going to even hit our moon. You know?
Yeah. No, you should be, the reason you should be nervous is you're trying to do something that you haven't done before.
Yeah. Right. Something that's not easy to obtain and probably not going to happen.
Taking a chance.
Yeah.
You know, rolling the dice.
So how did Stoicism change your view of life when you found it?
Well, I mean, I was 19, so whatever my view of life was probably stupid, you know. but I think that's what the point of wisdom is it's a way. Like, so I was reading the book that I read. The first one was Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, which is basically the private thoughts of the most powerful man in the world. So you're like, okay, I'm this 19-year-old college student, and then all of a sudden I'm just like mainlining. I'm having access to the brain of this person who lived 2,000 years ago, who's the head of the most powerful army, had the best teachers, sort of was renowned for his insights and, you know, patience and self-mastery. You're just like, what the, this is what's in books. You know, I just don't even think I conceived of that kind of thing existing. So yeah, it totally turned my world upside down, but it was just obviously a pretty provincial, you know, underwhelming worldview to begin with.
But were you the kind of guy who like needed it? Like you were a hothead or whatever, like where you needed stoicism in your life?
Totally. I mean, I was
every 19-year-old needs it, but
19-year-old dude. Yeah, I was an idiot, and I was impulsive, and I was ill-disciplined, and I was irresponsible, and I was entitled. You know, I was all those things. And so yeah, to be like, oh no, there's like a manual for dealing with this. That was very powerful for me.
I noticed the obstacle is the way on your forearm.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of my tattoos are kind of like memento?
Yes.
Like they're
yes.
Is that a reminder?
Yeah. So I did my first 3 books on Stoicism were The Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, and Stillness is the Key, which are sort of 3 kind of mantras that I try to live by. Obviously, I built books around them, both because the mantra is powerful and because I sort of personally was trying to live by that idea. Like that's what I needed the most. So yeah, that's what the tattoos are. And I got them sort of midway through each book as kind of a...
Oh, you have one for each one?
I have Obstacle, Ego, and then Stillness, yeah. And then this is the 4 Virtues of Stoicism, which I just finished a 4-book series about.
Oh, cool.
But I didn't want to do 4 separate tattoos. It seemed like a lot of work, and I was running out of space.
You're not running out of space. You got
no, I just didn't. I didn't want 4. I was gonna start to get like a lot of words.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. I have a lot of words. You have a lot of words on you too, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Are any of yours reminders to yourself, or?
No, these are all just tattoos I got at a different time of my life. You know, we had a machine at the house, so we would just like, oh, let's put this on you, you know, and just do fun stuff, you know. So
it's probably better that you have to go to a place to do the thing, because then you have to slightly raises the barrier of entry.
For sure.
See, I was right in the middle of that. One of our good friends in my friend group when we were like 20 got a job as an apprentice, and so we were hanging out at the tattoo shop. So there wasn't one at our house because fuck, I'd probably be all in my face and stuff. But no, I don't think I would have ever done that. But we'd go hang out at the tattoo shop and just we're bored.
Yeah.
Get tattooed.
Get tattooed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the tattoo shop that I grew up around in LA. We had a machine at home, so we had that going on every night. But then we would also hang out at a tattoo shop. I was hurt at the time. I was in the boot, you know, so I couldn't skateboard because that's what I do. So we just hung out at the tattoo shop. We had a little bench with some dumbbells there, and the tattoo shop sponsored us. So they would like, whatever you guys want, just, you know, tip the artists and stuff. So we would get tattoos basically daily, a few of them a day. And
yikes.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I basically got covered in probably a year, you know.
That's funny.
Yeah. You going to get more?
I don't know. I don't have any ideas for any right now, but I do try to collect sort of like mantras or ideas. And then I'm either sort of creatively fascinated by them, and then I'll sort of build a book or a project around them. So this last one I just did, I mean, it took 6 years. So I'm just sort of coming out of the other side of that right now.
This is the new book that's about to come out, or
No.
already came
So
out?
I did this series on the cardinal virtues of Stoicism are courage, discipline, justice, and wisdom. So I did a book on each one over 6 years.
Wow.
So the wisdom one came out in October, I think. So that was that whole process. So
Wow.
this is like a symbol for each one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you get enough tattoo, or if you write enough books, you might get a full sleeve.
I know that is, and then it's like started to become a thing where it's like, how are you going to get one for every book, even if they're not tattoo? I don't know. It became a whole thing. So I've sort of slowed down.
So what are you working on right now?
So my thing, each time I take on a project, I try to go like, okay, how in doing the project, whether it comes out, whether it sells 1 copy or 1,000,000 copies, like how did I get better for doing the thing? So when I did the Virtue series, it was the first off, I think the subject matter, I wanted to, courage, discipline, justice. I thought just sort of spending a year or two in each of those topics would be great, sort of personally. But I wanted to do an interrelated series of books, like books where they were all sort of connected. So that was like a process where I had to sort of map out over this 6-year period. So I just try on every project for it to be a stretch. So I'm not just doing the same thing and the same formula each time. So now I'm trying to do like just stylistically and from a research perspective, a very different kind of book that I have no idea how to do, that I'm not qualified to do. And so again, if it comes out and it does well, that's gravy on top of the fact that I, in sort of struggling with it, picked up a bunch of different skills.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you feel like it's because you want to challenge yourself in a new way, or?
Yeah, it's just boring, I think, to do the same thing over and over again. But like, if you're lifting the same amount of weight every day, it's not bad for you. You're just not really getting that much stronger. And so it's mostly in the decision to sort of, you move the little pin down to a place where it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I try to do on each project is like, how is this? I mean, not everything. Sometimes, hey, this is like a fun little thing, or this will be, this or that. But like, how am I just thought like, how is this like way on the other end of the spectrum? And as a result, I'll have to learn how to do things that I currently don't know how to do. And then that demands, okay, I got to get a coach. I got to get a teacher. I got to go read a bunch of different things. I got to go see a bunch of different things. Just how does that, the stretching is the important thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's like progress, right? It's like shocking the system
Yes.
in a way, right? So it's like almost you have your foundation, but now you want to kind of disrupt it a little bit and give yourself a new challenge, right?
Yes.
And
yeah.
you also get more creativity, more ambition, more like, just more energy towards something, right?
Yeah, and they shouldn't be like totally unrelated. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I have a restaurant, so now I'm going to start an accounting firm.
know.
Then none of the skills and lessons are transferable. But just
Yeah.
like, how are you pushing yourself? Like
Yeah.
for you, it's like I imagine it's like so many of your restaurants are for so few people, and then the decision be like, no, this is for as many people as possible, or this one is super casual and this one's super high. You're just like, as you said. How are you zinging and zagging all over the map? So you're really covering a lot of board.
Well, that's kind of what Shokunin, our new sushi restaurant, is kind of doing. It's a purposeful restaurant because it's something that we don't have in our portfolio. So all of our sushi restaurants are, and you've been to one, 10 seats.
Right.
It's a 2.5 hour experience. It's
Fine
ceremonial.
dining, right?
It's fine dining.
Yeah.
It's a place that you're going to eat at twice a year.
Right.
3 times a year. Maybe, depending on how well off you are or whatever, we definitely have people who eat there more than 3 times a year. But everybody was asking for a very long time, when are you going to open a sushi place that we can eat at more than 3 times a year?
Yeah.
And
fast
so
casual style,
yeah,
right?
and so I've been so against a la carte for so long, mainly because I had a la carte restaurants they happen to be the only ones that aren't still open. I never found, as a young artist, right? I wanted to create, and I thought my job was to come up with something new.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older on Earth, but also in my industry, I've kind of realized that maybe that's not. There's this thing in cooking that like every young chef puts too many things on the plate, and then as you get older and older, you put less and less on the plate.
Sure.
Because you're now no longer relying upon it being cool or interesting, but you are relying on it actually being technically driven.
Yeah.
And so this restaurant, I thought, okay, I'm going to, and I did. I tried to figure out what are we going to do here? And for a long time, I had wanted to sort of revive a style of sushi that is starting to become a dying breed, because unfortunately, I sort of inspired, at least in some form, like 10 years ago when we opened the first Sushi by Scratch restaurants, we got in a lot of trouble publicly for like putting garnish and things like that. And now 10 years later, you only are finding sushi restaurants that are opening all have garnish on them. Now, by no means were we the first people to do it, but we were the first people to do it in an extreme way in the Instagram era.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just noticed, and so did Margarita, that there just wasn't any new or many more existing sushi restaurants that were like the way they were back when we first found them.
Right.
So this new restaurant, not only is it a la carte, there's zero creativity. And I have chosen to do zero creativity. I've chosen to design a restaurant that is I call it an homage. It's a tribute restaurant to very specifically a style of sushi from the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles from the late 80s to the mid 90s. And so everything on that menu is exactly lifted from place and time. And I wanted to do it, one, so people could eat our food more often, and two, to hopefully, if if people like it, then it can start ushering in that style of sushi again.
We got to figure out how to make it interesting to you.
Yeah.
And usually doing it the same way over and over again is not that interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of true. I have 13 of the Sushi by Scratches, and although we changed the menu, and I haven't been as excited about any of those as I am about this in a very long time. Because now it's like, and it's crazy because I'm not even putting anything original on the menu, but I'm the most excited about being the chef of that.
No, it's a different puzzle.
Yeah.
You got to come up with these puzzles. Yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. It's like, how is this just like a puzzle that keeps it interesting to me? Because again, to go to what we're saying, that should be the reward, is that you get to spend a lot of time. The success and security that you've built should allow you to experiment and fuck around and do stuff that is creatively interesting to you. It shouldn't be the reward for succeeding at the things that, one, you have to do the same thing over and over again, and two, you don't actually get to do the parts that you like anymore.
Yeah.
And so that, like, I'm just like in the middle of this book and I'm just like having a really good time. And I'm like, oh yeah. And not only am I having a good time, I have time. Like there's no, my publisher wants it as soon as possible. And I'm like, it'll be ready when it's ready. And I'm like, this part's for me. So like, you'll get it when you get it,
But does that come with the territory of finding success?
A little bit.
Where now you have you are able to say, well, guys, you'll get it when it's ready.
Yeah, you definitely earn that.
Mm-hmm.
But you earn that. And it's a wonderful thing, But most people don't give it the gift of that to themselves, even though they have it.
Yeah, I think I fall into that category.
I'm enjoying this. I just think as long as you love the process part the most, that's the important thing.
And you kind of brought yourself back to like the original days, where you're just
that was
writing and
Yeah, exactly.
So you're just like soaking it in, enjoying it.
Yeah. And also again, like that's the part of it that is the most up to you.
Yeah.
Because the customer doesn't have a say yet. The publisher doesn't have a say yet. critics don't have a say yet. Market forces don't have, like, you're just, this is the part that's just you.
It's the art.
And yeah, and you should take it.
Yeah.
How much do you apply like Stoic, like on your day to day? Is it so ingrained in you now, or is it still ever like you have to like have a conversation with yourself?
I always have to have a conversation with myself. If it was easy, I probably wouldn't still be writing about it. It wouldn't be interesting to me. If it was like this thing where it's like, oh, I get it, and then you actually got it, well, humanity would just be in a very different place than it is. You know,
Yeah.
like the whole part is that it's hard, and you regress and you fuck up, and even though you know, like everybody knows what they should eat, they know,
and they just don't.
Yeah, they just don't. Right? Like that's life. You know that. The applying it's the whole fucking thing.
And is it something that you feel like you are constantly having to apply or are applying, or?
Well, I definitely am constantly having to apply it, and I do feel like I'm getting better. But it's I was joking about this the other day. Like, it says something about the moment in time we're in that Stoicism is popular. You know, like if everything was wonderful and everyone was getting what they wanted, people are like, what do I need this like austere ancient philosophy for? Like it says something. And if I could trade things being slightly less deranged for my work being less popular, like of course I would take it, but that's, you know, life.
How much of it do you think is like the social media technology that you need something like Stoicism? Like without that ruling the world, would Stoicism be as necessary? I mean, it's obviously necessary and was back then.
Well, yeah, like let's say
But
it's like, okay, keep your eyes on your own paper, just like as a general piece of advice for life, right? That's like a thing the Stoics would kind of talk about. Like, don't focus on what other people are doing. Don't compare yourself to them. Do what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, well, that's true 2,000 years ago. And then what happens when Instagram gives you access algorithmically to what everyone in the world is doing and incentivizes the things that are most likely to make you jealous and feel insecure. So it just supercharges all this shit. That's why I think Stoicism is both relevant and timeless. Is that it's all the problems that we've always had, just made worse by modernity.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were just talking about how technology is like Instagram for me, especially. I'm on a thing right now where I'm like act in the same way where I would be like, I'm not going to have a drink. I'm like not going to go on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because and not because my algorithm is not political. It's not gunfights. It's you know, food and skateboarding and you know,
but it's
whatever.
just not designed. It's never going to be like, oh, I did it. I don't need to do it again for a while. The whole point of the algorithm is to make you do it a lot and to feel unsettled as and after you do it.
That's the word I was looking. I feel I was comparing it to like eating a bag of chips and being full and completely empty at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like my head feels like full and empty at the same time.
Totally.
So unsettled, I think, is like maybe the best word to describe. And again, I'm just looking at pictures of pizzas and tacos and sushi and, you know, fun stuff. But for whatever reason, it just like, it messes with my head.
Yeah. It's, so you need these sort of ideas just more than ever.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's why it's popular.
I've got a question for you about how to get into, so like meditations, my wife's read that.
Yeah.
It's sitting next to my bed. It's I think it's been read so many times in her and her family. The pages aren't even like they're like stuffed back in. I tried to start it. I also had no idea like what it was other than it was very difficult to like actually, I think I made it 10 pages and I was like, what is this?
But that's the idea. It's not supposed to be a book that you read from cover to
See,
cover.
I didn't know that. I thought it was a book.
No, it's a collection of private thoughts from
Yeah.
the Emperor of Rome. Some of them are related to each other. Some of them are not. We have no idea what order he wrote them in. We don't even know what some of them mean.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not for you. They were for him.
Yeah.
Right? And it just happens to be that because this work that is one of the most specific works ever created, like person who's writing for himself, like reminders to himself, it somehow becomes quite universal. From the specific comes the general. So it's a book you're supposed to dip in and dip out of.
Okay.
And you're supposed to read meditations and find little things here or there that strike you in that moment. And it might be, if you picked it up a year later, that same thing wouldn't strike you, or it would strike you very differently, which is kind of this ancient idea that we never step in the same river twice. The idea is that what you take out of it has a lot to do with what you're bringing to it in that specific moment in time.
So would you almost suggest like you just like open to a page, read it?
I mean, I've read it cover to cover many, many times, but now that's what I do.
Got it. Yeah, because I remember opening it and like, okay, I'm going to read this. Also, we named our daughter Aurelia.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that name when I came up with it. And now I feel like it's all like my entire, like, it's like when it rains, it pours. I come up with this name and I didn't even know what it was. And then all of a sudden I start seeing it throughout and I'm like, okay, so I probably am supposed to look in this direction.
No, the only part of the book that is maybe somewhat chronological, the book begins with, it's called Debts and Lessons. And it's Marcus Aurelius listing all the things that he learned from the people who influenced him most in life. So it's kind of a catalog of like lessons about life and leadership and being a good person. It's sort of a gratitude practice, but it's very interesting because like a lot of them are very well-known historical figures.
Yeah.
This is his philosophy teacher. This is his adopted stepfather. This is a powerful senator. These are all these people that he learned from. That's kind of interesting to start with, but mostly I just tell people to sort of hunt and peck.
Yeah, I tried. I mean, I liked the prologue or whatever, where it like told me about him, and
Yeah, of course.
but then I started reading it, and I'm like sentence by sentence. I'm like, that I don't.
They're not really. Yes,
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of short epigrams and anecdotes and sometimes like weird poetic nonsense, right? But that's because it's for him. He knew.
Yeah.
But we don't. And so there's also kind of an element of like decoding that I think is really exciting about it.
Did you ever get into Stoicism at all? Because you're an incredibly stoic dude.
No, I think
It's just natural.
I think it just came naturally. Yeah. Well, it came through like experiences, ups and downs that I've been through all my life, and then just trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just trying to find a way to like cope and get through things. And I think it just kind of naturally grew on me,
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's kind of why when I was saying when I saw you do that talk, so much of it related to me in a way that I'm like, oh, I agree with that. I do that, or oh, that's interesting. That makes so much sense. And it may just be if you get beat up enough times.
Well, look, I think if I do one thing well, I think most people wake up and think like ancient philosophy, that's not for me. And I think what I've tried to do in my books, my talks, and my videos and stuff is go like, actually, maybe it is. And here's why.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned from Robert Greene as a research assistant. That's what I learned from books that I love, like how to do that. And so what I'm usually taking is something that the Stoics said or the Stoics sort of talked about, and I'm trying to find a way to illustrate it or demonstrate it specifically to an audience that is going to pick up meditations and be like, what am I supposed to do with this? Because he already said it really well, but at least in my view.
Yeah.
But not everyone has that view. And so what I've tried to do is take those ideas and just kind of like bring them to life from a different perspective.
It'd be interesting. It's probably way too niche of a category, but Stoicism in the kitchen, like Stoicism for like chefs or like in the industry, because there's so many things about like. There's a book that I used to make I don't anymore, but I used to make all of my new cooks read this book and then do a book report on it. It was called Letters to a Young Chef by Danielle Balut. And in there, he talked about things like every day taking home a case of potatoes and just tournéing them. And all of the different things. The whole book is about like, whoa, slow down.
Yeah.
You need to take a lot of time. If this is the route you want to go, it's not for everyone. You don't have to be here. But like, and I almost feel like that is a somewhat stoic approach to like, this is going to be hard. This is going to take time. You are not going to be able to like rush through it. And in this information age, people are rushing into and through so many things that I wonder if that would be, not I wonder if, that would be something that would, I think, be helpful to those types of people.
Yeah. I try to take, different lines of work or masters of different domains and then go like, well, here's a way that actually lines up with Stoicism. So for the last decade or so, that's been the writing that I've mostly done, is like, here's a Stoic idea. What's an example of that in real life?
Yeah. Oh, you say something?
Oh no, I was adjusting.
I got to go pick up my kids from school in a minute. But
Yeah, no worries. Well, I was just about to. So every one of these episodes, we only have one question planned. It's our
Okay.
last question.
All right.
So as we start to wrap it up, so I think it's probably a good time.
Let's do it.
Especially for some, I'm interested in your response because of the way that you live your life. Magic lamp on the table, genie comes out. You get to, through wishes, through whatever, design your entire existence and reality 10 years from now. What are you doing? Where are you? What does your world look like?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think what I like about my life is that there's not that much I would change. I've tried to set up a life that I actually like living and where I get to mostly do the things that I want to do, and I mostly don't have to do things that I don't want to do. Now, obviously, we're all subject to events, things that are outside of our control. But I mostly like my life. So one of the interesting questions, you probably get this too, people are always like, what's next? What are you going to do next? And as if like the thing you're doing isn't
What you want to be doing.
what you want to be doing, that you always need to top what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I would mostly probably just be writing. I think my wife and I, we just had a long car ride yesterday, and we were just talking about sort of simplifying some certain things. I think when you're in this sort of building phase of what you do, you often sort of introduce a lot more complexity than is actually sustainable or necessary or enjoyable. So I'd probably have slimmed it down a little bit. I guess my kids would be 18 in 10 years. That's fucking nuts. So I don't know. I'd be entering a different phase in my life too, but I'd hope that it'd be weirdly almost exactly the same as it currently is.
That's a great fucking answer.
That's probably one of my favorite answers.
I mean, it's a great fucking answer because
Yeah.
it's all about winning the game, and not until you're at the point where you're like, nope, I like this.
Yeah,
That is winning the game.
totally. Because this you have.
Yeah.
Right. And so much of what we built our lives around and are working towards is something we don't have. Right. It's like, I need this, like the story. And then you can retire and live on a beach. And then you can live in peace. But it's like, if you could get, and the Stoics talk about it, it's like, if you can find a way to wish for what you have, then you're very, very lucky. If what you need is a bunch of things to go right, then, I mean, hopefully you'll get it, but you probably won't. So
Yeah. If you want everything you have, then you have everything you want.
Yep. I love that.
that's it.
That's it. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of
and doing
course.
this.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for having
man.
me.
I really enjoyed this, and I might go home and open up meditations tonight.
All right, let me know
and
what
read
you
a couple
think.
sentences.
Yeah, this has been awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Hit subscribe now if you want to follow along. We have some awesome guests lined up that we sit down with. Make sure you follow the Not a Damn Chance podcast on socials at NADC Podcast. We'll see you next week.